in The Family Culture versus Pop Culture by Israel Wayne. Although it's never objectively accurate to say that a certain time period was the good old days, in which I call it the 1950 when I was born, there are many positive values that our society has lost in the past 150 years. One of the most tragic of these losses was the disintegration of the family culture, especially the multi-generational connections and legacies. Because many of us never experienced the benefits of the family culture in our lifetimes, we may not even recognize our collective loss. Imagine with me, if you can, a culture where you're surrounded with people who know you and love you. There's parents, uncles, aunts, cousins, grandparents, and even an occasional great-grandparent. Living, working, playing, and worshiping with these loved ones creates a wonderful sense of security and stability. You know who you are, to a great extent, because your relationships with those of your surrounding family. Family can serve as a fixed reference point, linking you to geography, to the past, in a way that no other friendship or community can. Allow me to outline some of the paradigm shifts that have occurred in the American culture over the past 150 years, bringing about a disconnected and an individualist society which has replaced the previous family-centered culture. The breakdown of the family culture. The breakdown of the family, huh? No doubt. I would say that the breakdown of the family culture in America began largely after the Civil War in 1865. Over 620,000 American men died in what was left virtually every family without a loved one. In the Reconstruction that followed the war, men often left their homes and began to work in factories, taking advantage of the new breakthroughs of invention and industry. Prior to the Civil War, the majority of Americans were agrarian, rural, and worked on family farms and family-owned businesses. Women's liberation. Eventually, the 20th century, the feminist movement put mothers into the workplace as well, effectively removing the central hub of the family from the home. Mothers were convinced to leave their education of their children to trained and certified experts, quote unquote. With the additional tax burden placed on families because of the state-funded schools, many families felt the need to have two incomes just to make ends meet. Well, yeah, not just that, but how about the availability of credit? Oh, yeah. Funny how that played into it. There's no way to estimate the effect of this so-called women's liberation movement has on the lives of millions of children. Children need both parents, ideally, to be emotionally and socially balanced, but they especially need the daily nurturing of their mothers. While some point to the positive gains made through equal rights movement like women's liberation, the freeing of women from their families has devastated the family culture. Women's liberation mainly freed women from their children, made them slaves to their jobs. It's not merely a matter of men and women working a job outside of the home. It is a mindset shift from parents being responsible for the care and nurturing of their own offspring to an expectation that the government is supposed to provide for all of our needs from the cradle to the grave. And we all work to support an ever-growing bureaucracy that seeks to do us for what we should be doing ourselves. The loss of folk culture. America is a nation of immigrants. Groups and families have come to America from every nation around the globe. They bring with them their own beliefs, cuisine, dress, language, and religion. In other words, their own culture. America has become the great melting pot. The tension these families experience, which is the same struggle that every newlywed married couple faces, is how to keep their own unique identities while being absorbed into the greater whole. Many ethnic groups have fought tenaciously to keep their families together in the face of what seems a relentless and pervasive attempt to strip out of their distinctiveness. As each generation follows, less and less of the old ways are retained as the new generations become absorbed into the larger American culture. But what is the new American culture? It's no longer the folk culture of each of these unique groups. It is instead an emerging consumer culture of entertainment, merchandising, in other words, pop culture. And I'm going to say we're all promiscuous. We're all promiscuous consumers. Continuing. Mass media and the creation of a mass culture. With the advent of radio, eventually television, all Americans, regardless of their geography, had access to the same news and information. Mass media, standardized education helped to shape a general culture. Rather than localized provincial folk or agrarian cultures, Americans were increasingly adopting lifestyles of urban and suburban society. But regardless of whether you lived in the country or the city, you were watching the same television shows, hearing the same commercials, and using the same textbooks as everybody else in America. I am so glad I found this essay. The advent of pop culture. As corporate marketers learned how to tap the vast potential of various media channels, people were slowly morphed into consumers rather than self-sufficient producers. Oh, that's cool. Oh, that is cool. Let me read that again. As corporate marketers learned how to tap the vast potential of various media channels, people were slowly morphed into consumers rather than self-sufficient producers. Mass retail distribution through superstores, who sell everything from groceries to household goods, placed all of these nationally advertised products on the shelves within a few miles of virtually every American. The Family Culture versus Pop Culture by Israel Wayne. Although it's never objectively accurate to say that a certain time period was the good old days, in which I call it the 1950 when I was born.